Every financial collapse begins the same way, not with fear, but with a blinding euphoria. In 1929, America was intoxicated, convinced the party would never end. Stocks were doubling, newspapers hailed a new age of prosperity, and everyone, from bankers to barbers, was certain they'd unlocked a secret shortcut to wealth. But financial illusions are fragile. When the market finally shattered, it didn't just erase fortunes, it vaporized trust, shattered security, and destroyed millions of dreams. $30 billion vanished in a single, brutal week. A confident nation was brought to its knees. And now, nearly a century later, the same chilling patterns are re-emerging. The players have new faces. The technology moves at lightning speed, but the dangerous human emotion, the unchecked greed, the reckless overconfidence, is a ghost that never left. Welcome to Financial Backstory. We dissect the booms, the busts, and the brutal truths. Because history doesn't just repeat itself, it always returns with interest greater than golden haze of the 1920s, an era that believed it had conquered the future. The war was over. Factories roared back to life. Radios, cars, and airplanes turned yesterday's science fiction into reality. For the first time, ordinary Americans could buy products on credit. Radios, furniture, even stock shares. Everyone was investing. Everyone was certain. The Dow Jones kept rising, and the newspapers called it the new American prosperity. But beneath the glitter, something darker was forming. Companies were valued at 10 times their profits. Banks were lending money they didn't have, and Wall Street had quietly turned speculation, gambling, into a national sport. There were warnings, of course. A few economists spoke about the bubble of illusion, but nobody wanted the party to end. A reporter once described the mood on Wall Street like this: every man thought he was a genius, every woman thought she'd married one. And while the nation danced to the rhythm of jazz, the foundation of the American dream was cracking, silently, invisibly, underneath. It wasn't just greed that built the bubble, it was the belief that history had changed, that prosperity had become permanent. Sound familiar? 100 years later, we're hearing the same music, just remixed for the digital age. October 24th, 1929. It began like any other Thursday morning on Wall Street. The air smelled of cigar smoke and ambition. Stockbrokers in sharp suits crowded under the golden ticker boards, waiting for the opening bell. But when the bell rang, the numbers didn't rise. They fell, and then they plunged. Within minutes, phones were ringing nonstop. People were shouting orders. Sell! Sell before it's too late. But there were no buyers left. By noon, billions of dollars had vanished. Paper fortunes erased in the time it takes to light a cigarette. Outside the exchange, crowds gathered, silent at first, then trembling. Some wept openly. Others stood frozen, unable to believe that the future they'd been promised was gone. Newspapers called it Black Thursday, but that was only the beginning. The panic spread like a virus. By the following week, the markets had collapsed completely. Banks failed. Families lost their life savings overnight. Men who had once owned skyscrapers stood in breadlines the next morning. It wasn't just an economic collapse. It was a psychological one. The American dream, that belief that anyone could rise, anyone could make it, shattered in a single season. And in the silence that followed, people began asking the same question we ask today. How could this happen? How could nobody see it coming? Nearly a century later, we're seeing the same signs appear again. Overvalued companies, speculative bubbles, artificial money, and the quiet arrogance that says, this time is different. It never is. History doesn't repeat itself word for word, but it rhymes so perfectly that sometimes you can almost hear the echo. In 1929, the danger began when too much credit chased too little value. In 2025, it's happening again. Not in dusty stock exchanges, but on our screens, in the invisible flow of digital money. Today, trillions move with a swipe. Assets inflate not because they're worth more, but because we believe they are. The same story, different stage. Back then, people borrowed to buy stocks. Now, we borrow to buy lifestyles, homes we can't afford, cars we don't need, digital tokens we barely understand. And just like in 1929, the numbers look perfect until they don't. The government prints money to keep the illusion alive. Corporations buy back their own shares to boost stock prices. And every time the market trembles, someone says the same three words they said a century ago: it's under control. But deep down, we know control is the first illusion to vanish. In 1929, the collapse took months. In our hyper-connected world, it could take hours. One rumor, one crash, one digital spark. That's all it takes now to send the world's economy spinning. And when it does happen, there won't be time to open the newspaper and read the headline. It'll already be too late. So, what happens next? The truth is, every great collapse begins not with numbers, but with confidence. In 1929, people didn't lose everything overnight. They lost trust in banks, in markets, in each other. And once that trust disappeared, the economy followed. We stand at the same edge today. Our systems are faster, smarter, digital, but human nature hasn't changed. We still chase quick gains. We still believe we can outsmart history. We still think someone will save us when the music stops. But history whispers a quieter truth. No empire, no system, no currency lasts forever. Every time we say, this time is different, history smiles. Because it knows it never is. Yet, that's not the end of the story. The Great Depression didn't destroy humanity. It humbled it. It reminded people what really holds value: integrity, hard work, real innovation, not speculation. And if there's one lesson that matters most from 1929, it's this: when the illusion fades, only truth and resilience survive. Beat, calm music swells softly, hopeful tone builds. The collapse of 1929 is happening again, but faster. The question is, will we repeat the same mistakes or finally learn from them? This was Financial Backstory, where history isn't just remembered, it's relived.